What makes a woman truly unforgettable? Is it her beauty, her charm, or something far deeper? Some women leave an imprint on your soul, not just your memory. They fascinate, challenge, and inspire long after they're gone. But the answer lies not in superficial traits, but in psychology, the hidden forces that shape attraction, connection, and timeless presence. 1. The anima and the feminine archetypes. At the heart of Carl Jung's exploration of the human psyche lies the concept of the anima, the unconscious feminine dimension within every man. This isn't merely about gender, but about energy. The anima represents the hidden layers of emotion, intuition, and relational depth that exist beneath the surface of a man's conscious personality. Jung believed that the anima develops over time, shaped by a man's earliest experiences with the feminine, often beginning with his mother, and later evolving through his relationships with lovers, muses, and mentors. When a man encounters a woman who embodies the qualities of his own anima in a profound way, the effect is magnetic. She doesn't just attract him, she awakens something within him. This is why certain women leave an indelible mark. They resonate not just with a man's desires, but with his soul's unfinished work. An unforgettable woman doesn't conform to a single archetype but moves fluidly between them, revealing different facets of the feminine at just the right moments. She carries the nurturing warmth of the mother, not in a domineering or smothering way, but with a grounded wisdom that makes others feel seen and safe. This is the energy of the caregiver, the guide, the one who fosters growth without demanding dependency. Yet she is also the lover, fully alive in her sensuality and passion. Unlike fleeting seduction, her magnetism comes from an unapologetic embrace of pleasure, beauty, and connection. She understands that intimacy is more than physical, it's an exchange of energy, a dance of vulnerability and desire. But depth is what separates the merely attractive from the truly unforgettable. This is where the wise woman emerges, the archetype of intuition and insight. She listens to the whispers of her unconscious, trusts her instincts, and sees beyond the obvious. Men and women alike are drawn to her because she reflects back to them their own hidden truths. And then there's the wild woman, untamed, fiercely authentic, refusing to be confined by expectations. She is Persephone descending into the underworld and returning transformed, Athena with her strategic mind, Aphrodite with her intoxicating allure. These mythological figures aren't just stories, they're echoes of the eternal feminine that lives in every woman who dares to embrace her full complexity. The key is that she doesn't choose one archetype over another. She integrates them. A woman who is only the mother may be admired but not deeply desired. One who is only the lover may be desired but not respected. The unforgettable woman knows when to nurture, when to challenge, when to ignite passion, and when to retreat into her mystery. This fluidity keeps her from being predictable, and it's this very unpredictability that makes her impossible to forget. Jung understood that the feminine is not a monolith. It's a living, shifting force. And the women who understand this don't just occupy space in the world, they alter it. 2. Psychological depth and individuation. What makes certain women linger in our memories long after others fade isn't merely charm or beauty, but something far more substantial, a profound psychological depth that radiates from within. This depth emerges from a courageous journey of self-discovery, one where she has dared to confront not just her light but her shadows. Carl Jung's concept of the shadow, the repressed, denied, or unconscious aspects of the self, plays a pivotal role here. An unforgettable woman doesn't hide from her flaws, her contradictions, or her darker emotions. Instead, she acknowledges them, integrates them, and in doing so, becomes whole. This isn't about indulging in negativity, but about embracing the full spectrum of her humanity. She knows that vulnerability isn't weakness, It's the birthplace of authenticity. When she speaks, there's weight behind her words because they come from lived experience, not just polished persona. She has wrestled with her own depths, and that struggle gives her a presence that can't be replicated by surface-level charm alone. This process of inner reconciliation is what Jung called individuation, the lifelong work of becoming who we truly are, beyond societal expectations, familial conditioning, or cultural scripts. Most people go through life wearing masks, playing roles assigned to them by others: the dutiful daughter, the accommodating partner, the flawless ideal. But the unforgettable woman refuses to be confined by these external definitions. She questions, she rebels, she experiments, and through this sometimes messy process, she uncovers her own unique essence. Unlike those who cling to safety and conformity, she risks discomfort for the sake of self-realization. This doesn't mean she's selfish or unmoored from responsibility. Rather, she engages with the world from a place of genuine alignment. Her choices, her passions, and even her silences carry the quiet authority of someone who has met herself fully, and that kind of integrity is magnetic. The contrast between this depth and shallow charm is striking. Superficial appeal might catch attention, but it rarely sustains it. A woman who relies solely on wit, flirtation, or curated perfection may dazzle at first, but over time, the absence of substance becomes glaring. There's no mystery, no unfolding layers, just a rehearsed performance that eventually feels hollow. In contrast, a woman with emotional presence doesn't need to perform. She's comfortable with stillness, with complexity, with the unspoken. People sense that she isn't just reacting to them, but truly seeing them, and being seen in that way is a rare and intoxicating experience. Her relationships aren't transactional, they're transformative. She doesn't seek to fill a void in herself through others, because she's done the hard work of filling it on her own. That's why she leaves an imprint, not by demanding attention, but by offering the kind of connection that lingers in the soul long after she's gone. This depth isn't something she stumbles upon by accident. It's cultivated through introspection, through the willingness to sit with discomfort, and through the refusal to settle for a life half-lived. While others chase validation, she seeks understanding. While others hide from their shadows, she brings them into the light. And in doing so, she becomes more than just memorable. She becomes a mirror, showing others what's possible when we dare to meet ourselves fully. Jung believed that the path to wholeness was the highest calling of human life. The unforgettable woman walks that path not with perfection, but with purpose, and that, more than anything else, is what makes her impossible to forget. 3. The power of mystery and unpredictability. There exists an irresistible magnetism to what we cannot fully grasp, an allure that transcends logic and lingers in the realm of intuition. Carl Jung recognized this powerful draw toward the unknown, understanding that the unconscious mind is perpetually fascinated by what remains just beyond complete comprehension. This is why certain women captivate in ways that defy simple explanation. They are not puzzles to be solved, but living mysteries to be experienced. Women who reveal themselves in layers rather than all at once. The moment you believe you have understood them entirely, they surprise you with a new facet of their being. This isn't manipulation or calculated withholding. It's the natural presence of someone who exists beyond the need for constant validation through visibility. An unforgettable woman understands the power of subtle restraint. In a world where oversharing has become commonplace and constant availability is mistaken for connection, she remains discerning about what, when, and how much she reveals. This measured openness creates a sacred tension, what Jung might describe as the temenos, that hallowed psychological space where transformation occurs precisely because not everything is laid bare. She is neither cold nor overly accommodating, but maintains a delicate equilibrium between approachability and enigma. People find themselves leaning in, not because she demands their attention, but because they sense there are depths yet to be discovered. Unlike those who exhaust their mystery through premature revelation, she allows relationships to unfold organically, making every genuine connection feel like an earned privilege rather than a given right. This balance between warmth and mystery is what makes her presence so compelling. She may be deeply engaged in conversation, yet you walk away feeling there's more to know. She might share personal stories, but never in ways that seek pity or approval. There's an art to this dance, an understanding that true intimacy flourishes in the space between knowing and wondering. Jungian psychology suggests that our psyches are wired to project onto blank canvases, but the unforgettable woman is no blank slate. She is instead a living tapestry, rich enough to inspire projection yet defined enough to remain authentically herself. This dynamic creates a powerful alchemy. Those who interact with her don't just remember what she said or did, but how she made them feel awakened, curious, and somehow more alive to their own hidden potentials. The contrast with modern transparency culture is stark. Where many today mistake constant visibility for authenticity, she recognizes that some aspects of the self are meant to be protected, not as walls, but as sacred inner chambers that one must earn the right to enter. This isn't about playing games. It's about honoring the natural rhythms of human connection. Just as we wouldn't rush to the climax of a great story, she understands that psychological and emotional depth cannot be hurried. By maintaining this balance, she becomes more than just another face in the crowd. She becomes someone who lingers in the imagination, sparking that timeless human fascination with what exists just beyond full comprehension. In doing so, she embodies one of Jung's most profound truths, that the most powerful connections occur not in complete revelation, but in that sacred space where mystery and knowing eternally dance. 4. Emotional alchemy, turning pain into wisdom. The most unforgettable women are not those who have lived charmed lives free from hardship, but rather those who have walked through fire and emerged not just intact, but transformed. There exists a particular alchemy to their presence, an ability to take the raw materials of pain, loss, and disappointment and transmute them into something far more precious. Hard-won wisdom, depth of character, and an almost preternatural understanding of the human condition. Carl Jung saw this process mirrored in ancient alchemical symbolism, where the base metal of lead, representing our suffering and shadow, could through careful work be transformed into spiritual gold. The woman who masters this emotional alchemy doesn't just survive her experiences, she redeems them, turning what could have made her bitter into what instead makes her radiantly whole. This transformation requires more than mere resilience. It demands a willingness to descend into the depths of one's own psyche, to sit with discomfort, and to extract meaning from chaos. Jung's concept of the wounded healer archetype speaks directly to this phenomenon. The unforgettable woman often carries wounds, yes, but they are wounds that have been examined, integrated, and ultimately become sources of her strength and compassion. Where others might remain trapped in cycles of victimhood or repression, she does the difficult inner work of facing her pain directly, allowing it to reshape her without defining her. In doing so, she becomes like the alchemical vessel itself, the container where dark and light mix, where opposites unite, and where something entirely new is born from what was once broken. Consider how this manifests in her relationships and presence. She doesn't shy away from life's complexities or offer platitudes in the face of others' suffering. Having wrestled with her own demons, she can sit with discomfort, hers and others, without needing to immediately fix or flee from it. There's a grounded quality to her empathy. It's not the saccharine sympathy of someone untouched by darkness, but the earned compassion of someone who has faced the night and brought back treasures. When she speaks of love, it's with the knowing of someone who has survived its loss. When she offers counsel, it comes from having been lost and found her way. This lived wisdom makes her guidance invaluable and her companionship rare, not because she has all the answers, but because she's walked the questions. The contrast between this alchemical approach to suffering and more superficial coping mechanisms is profound. Where some might numb their pain or cling to resentment, she mines her experiences for meaning. A betrayal becomes a lesson in boundaries. A failure transforms into a study in humility and redirection. Even her regrets are not left to fester, but examined for what they can teach her about herself and her path forward. This isn't about putting a positive spin on hardship, but about engaging with it at such depth that it can't help but change her in ways that ultimately serve her growth. Jung understood that this very process of confronting, processing, and integrating our suffering is what leads to true individuation and wholeness. Perhaps most remarkably, this hard-earned wisdom gives her an almost uncanny ability to see potential where others see only problems, in situations, in systems, and especially in people. Like the alchemists of old who sought to find the divine spark in base matter, she has developed an eye for the gold hidden within life's challenges and within the souls of those she encounters. This makes her not just memorable, but transformative, a woman who doesn't merely pass through lives but alters them, not by trying to change people, but by seeing and reflecting back their own latent possibilities. In a world that often fears darkness, she has learned to work with it, making her not just unforgettable, but indispensable, a living embodiment of Jung's conviction that our greatest wounds can, through conscious work, become the wellsprings of our greatest gifts. 5. The magnetism of wholeness. The unforgettable woman carries herself with a quiet authority that needs no external confirmation. She moves through the world not as someone searching for approval, but as someone who has already arrived at an unshakable sense of self. This isn't the brittle confidence of ego, but the fluid assurance that comes from having made peace with all parts of herself. Carl Jung's concept of integration is key here, the conscious unification of opposing forces within the psyche. She doesn't deny her vulnerability in favor of strength, nor suppress her power to appear approachable. Instead, she holds these contradictions with graceful equilibrium, understanding that true wholeness means embracing paradox. Her confidence isn't performative, it's organic, radiating from the simple truth that she no longer fights against herself. This integration makes her presence both grounding and electrifying. In social settings, she isn't scanning the room for reactions or molding herself to expectations. Where others wear carefully constructed personas, Jung's metaphorical masks we present to the world, she remains startlingly authentic. The persona serves an important function in society, but becomes imprisoning when we mistake it for our true identity. The unforgettable woman knows the difference. She can engage socially without losing herself, can adapt without compromising her core. This creates a magnetic tension. People sense they're encountering not a curated image, but a multidimensional human being. In a culture obsessed with personal branding and manufactured identities, such genuineness feels like a revelation. It reminds others of what they've forgotten about their own potential for authenticity. What makes this quality so rare and captivating is the courage it requires. Integration demands that we face what we've disowned in ourselves, the talents we've downplayed, the needs we've ignored, the shadows we've locked away. Most people prefer the safety of their personas, even as they chafe against their limitations. But the woman who has done her inner work carries an unmistakable freedom in her bearing. She isn't reckless with her truth, but she's unafraid of it. This allows for relationships of unusual depth, as people instinctively recognize they're engaging with someone real rather than a projection. There's relief in her presence, the kind that comes when we encounter someone with nothing to prove and nothing to hide. Yet this wholeness isn't static perfection. Part of what makes her compelling is that her integration is an ongoing practice, visible in how she handles life's inevitable stumbles. When contradicted, she considers rather than defends. When wrong, she admits rather than justifies. These moments of graceful imperfection paradoxically make her more trustworthy, not less. Proof that her confidence isn't a facade but a deep-rooted way of being. In Jungian terms, she has made the journey from persona to true self, and that journey imprints itself on everyone she encounters. People may forget what she said or did, but they remember how she made them feel, seen, somehow more authentic themselves, and curiously awakened to possibilities within their own psyche. This is the quiet power of wholeness. It doesn't just draw admiration, but invites transformation. What makes a woman truly unforgettable isn't any single quality, but the symphony of depth she carries within her, the psychological richness that comes from embracing her shadows and her light, her wisdom and her wildness, her strength and her tenderness. As we've explored, this magnetism isn't about perfection, but presence. It's the woman who has faced her own depths and emerged with hard-won self-knowledge. The one who understands that mystery isn't a game, but an invitation to connection. The one whose emotional intelligence comes not from books, but from lived alchemy, the transformation of pain into insight, experience into wisdom, and vulnerability into unshakable authenticity. She isn't unforgettable because she demands to be remembered, but because encountering her changes something in those who cross her path. So now we turn to you. Which of these archetypes resonates most deeply with your own journey? Are you the nurturing mother, the passionate lover, the intuitive wise woman, or the untamed wild one? Perhaps you recognize fragments of each within yourself, waiting to be acknowledged and integrated. Share your thoughts below. This conversation is just the beginning. If these ideas have sparked your curiosity, consider diving deeper into Jung's work, where you'll find endless wisdom about the unconscious, the process of individuation, and the timeless patterns that shape our lives. The path to becoming unforgettable isn't about mimicking traits, but uncovering your own unique essence, the self that exists beyond roles and expectations. As we close, let these words from Carl Jung linger with you. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes. The most captivating women are those who have dared to look inward, to awaken to their full potential, and in doing so, have become mirrors for others to do the same. That is the real alchemy, and it's available to anyone willing to begin the journey.